We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go. We will not bow down. Let my people go.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 67 of the Croydon Constitutionalist podcast, bringing classical liberalism to South London and beyond via our YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Well, this is a special episode in which we have some speeches from a Hustings that we recently held here in Croydon. We've got speeches from representatives of the Christian People's Alliance, the Heritage Party, a local guy who is standing to be the first directly elected mayor of Croydon, standing as an independent, from the Libertarian Party and from the SDP. Hope you enjoy the speeches, and we'll be back with our normal programming shortly. In the meantime, stay free everybody.
Thank you very much. My name is David Omamogho. I'm actually a lawyer by profession, living in Croydon, stayed in Croydon, at the South Croydon for about 7 to 8 years. I've only just recently moved to Lower Addiscombe, which is Addiscombe West. I would say I'm a father, I have a wife, I have 3 children. I would say I'm an accidental politician, but a leader by design. I'm not really a political person, but I'm a leader because I serve in my church and I serve people. So any platform to serve people, I'm willing to join. And if politics is part of that, then I'm for it. And that's just my short story.
Thank you, David. Next we have Zack Stiling from the Heritage Party.
Thank you all for coming down here tonight. I think most of you in this room will be aware of the Heritage Party. But if you're not, you might be wondering who we are and what we stand for. To put it simply, the Heritage Party is the true Conservative Party. Of course, the Conservative Party isn't really conservative. Its endorsement of wokeism, its uncontrolled spending and Blairite expansion of state powers is not in keeping with conservative ideology. It was in recognition of that fact that David Curtin founded the Heritage Party in May 2020 to give traditional conservatism a much-needed voice. What then do we stand for more broadly? We want to champion our history and our culture as a nation. We stand up for the rights and the freedoms of the individual, and we want to promote traditional family values. We want to see local self-sufficiency flourish and reduce dependency. We stand for stricter controls on immigration, and we're environmentalists in the truest sense. Which means we want to preserve the countryside, promote civic beauty in town centres, and restore or rebuild those places which have been made ugly. Now, the fact that the Heritage Party is conservative doesn't mean that it can't also be creative. And obviously, we want to conserve or create those things which are good, while striving to improve upon or rectify those things which are bad. The Heritage Party is not so crude that it would want to destroy anything. The Heritage Party recognises and values the philosophy and industry of our ancestors who begat everything we so readily take for granted today. It evaluates their work with nuance, examining all their successes and failures and rejoicing in their endeavour. Now, it was said of mid-Victorian Croydon, and I quote, it was still a country town, surrounded by fair Surrey scenery. It was still possible to hear the nightingale singing within the borough and to catch trout in the broad waters of the Wandle. Isn't that a lovely picture? For all that we have benefited from progress, are we really happier now that we've poured concrete all over it? Is there anyone in this room who wouldn't like to see parts of old Croydon like that brought back? That is our heritage, and that is what we want to restore. I've lived in Shirley all my life, and I've witnessed Croydon's decline, but I've come to harbour a kind of affection for it. Other people might think of Croydon and associate it with knife crime, unfortunately, or with oppressive and arrogant town centre high-rises. But I've had the privilege of seeing a different side. The enclaves of splendid Victoriana, where we are now on Clyde Road, is something to cherish. Go outside and look at the houses. They're not extraordinary, but they have an obvious beauty which is free for us all to experience. The houses, to look on the houses of Clyde Road is something which may uplift the soul. It is something to conserve. And I would say the same of our woodland and green spaces. As someone who values quiet and solitude, for me, living within walking distance of Croydon's rural fringe has been nothing less than vital to my well-being. And I believe everyone should have the opportunity to escape the noise and commotion of the town and revel in some natural beauty. The council doesn't agree. It wants, or it has been discussing, plans to remove the protected status of 6 green spaces. I say no. They are ours to conserve. And then there are the people who man the societies and organisations doing the jobs the council doesn't do, volunteers who maintain the woodland and keep the streets clean, and all the ordinary men and women, young and old, who confided in me when I was campaigning last year that they abhor the direction in which Croydon is going, erasing its own culture and its own heritage. Croydon needs true conservatism, and it deserves true conservatism, but only the Heritage Party can deliver it.
Our next speaker this evening is Gavin Palmer, who is going to be an independent candidate for the new position of the elected Mayor of Croydon. Gavin.
Thank you all for coming, particularly in this difficult hail, sun climate with an invasion of Ukraine and lots of other diversions on the national local media. However, this is the time for people like myself, Gavin Palmer, to stand up and to make a difference for Croydon. My family have been in Croydon for 100 years. My grandfather built estates in Norbury, Norwood, Woodside, attractive family homes and buildings, and another attractive estate around the Wadden Ponds. We have my blood, sweat and toil of my family in this borough, and it deserves proper respect. It deserves good councillors running Croydon Council well. In 1993, I was never even interested in politics. Why? Because Croydon was well run. It was boring. All the collections worked. They were prided in how low the council tax was, compared themselves to Wandsworth, which would have a council tax of £850 a year instead of Croydon with more like a £3,000. If we're going to have Croydon change and fix, it should come from one of the 2 main political parties. However, they've got themselves in such a state, electing officials that have scant regard for respecting the voters and constituents of Croydon. It's not good enough. One of the sparks was when in the estate of the Whitgift Foundation, my grandfather bought the land and he had the sale document stating one dwelling per plot. And what did the councillors on the planning committee do? They decided to ignore that legal contract almost 100 years ago. An understanding. They've ignored the illegality of Negridi's £440,000 payoff without going through council. They have council meetings with 600 pages that are passed through because they ran out of time. This is just not good enough for the largest town in Europe. We used to have the 4th largest department store, Alders of Croydon. And this Westfield development, maybe they should have been talking to me back in 1993 and 94, because it was me that was in a stand in the Alders Mall looking and presenting about this development. And I looked at it, looked at the model, had days of doing it. And I worked out, even then, it would fail. Now, the reason is because I have, according to Professor Turner at Exeter University, where I was a mechanical engineer, a superb analytical mind, perception, pick things up. I've done the investment management certificate. I've analysed accounts. I've done corporate governance as a volunteer for 30 years. I've influenced and changed government policy in bicycles, in housing, in various other areas. I've had good links with ministers. I think Chris Philp is a great MP and gets things done. I wouldn't be standing here if Chris Philp was going to be a candidate. But I looked at the other fellow candidates, and my application was 3 days late and refused. And I look and I say, is this the best that the 330,000 people of Croydon have to offer? So I chose to stand up, be counted, and make a difference. I'm a talented individual. I'll be an independent mayor. I will certainly run the meetings effectively, and I did that and proven at university. I've got creative problem solving, and I've got a bundle of good projects to make a difference for Croydon, the youth of Croydon, and to create a better future for all Croydonians. So I ask for your support as an independent candidate for mayor to make a difference, participate, engage across Croydon, because Croydon deserves better. And that hoarding, which was known at the referendum, came from history and my family, because I care about Croydon, and that's why I did it, and that's why I put it up, to make a difference for everyone in Croydon. So, I hope you will vote for me, support me, and make a difference. Thank you very much.
The next speaker this evening is Laurence Williams from the Libertarian Party.
Thanks, you haven't heard me speak yet, but anyway, I feel a bit of an interloper because I'm not actually from Croydon. I'm a Londoner, and I live in Bexley, so apologies to anyone that thinks I'm a foreigner or whatever, but they got me in to speak. I'm actually speaking on behalf of the Libertarians and the Freedom Alliance, because just recently they've kind of got into bed with each other. That doesn't sound very good, does it? But arguing the same sort of deal, if you like. Libertarianism is all about small tax, small government and big truth. Freedom Alliance is more to do with the vax mandates and things like that. So if you do question us at some point or other, I hope to be able to answer that. Like David, I'm an accidental politician. I started all this in 1990. I stood for local council in Camden at the time. For a laugh, I thought I'd just do it. I went out and put my name down. I got 77 votes standing as a council tenant, and I thought this is all right. I didn't have to do anything, didn't cost any money, and I just carried on going. So I've stood in every local election since, which is now 10 this year, 10th local election. I've also done 3 general elections, 2 Welsh ones and 2 European ones as well. So, and I've met a cast of thousands en route, including a former Prime Minister and several other sort of cabinet people and everything else. A bit of a laugh on the way. Sometimes it gets very disappointing when you lose, as often as I have. But, you know, I still come back for more because I love all these people here. And we all sing from the same song sheet, I hope. Anyway, I think I do. Give us a shout later on if you fancy a chat about anything. I'm sorry I'm ever so tired. It's been another long shift at the hospital again today for me, so there we are. See you later.
And certainly, last but certainly not least, we have Steve Kelleher from the SDP.
Oh, good evening. Good evening, everybody. And I guess I'll start things off with a question, which is, you know, why are we and why are you all here? And I think, you know, if you allow me to answer for you, it's because we care. We actually care about our communities. We care about our town. We care about our country. We care about our future. And it's not looking great at the moment, is it? I mean, the SDP were formed in 1981, so just over 40 years ago, when they split from Labour because after 40 years since the war, they were fed up with 2 corrupt and useless parties in a corrupt and useless voting system, and they wanted to give the country a different choice. And then, when they got 26% of the vote at one stage, they were looking good. Then it was David Owen who decided to keep the SDP independent when everybody else joined together, which eventually formed what is now the Lib Dems. But the SDP stayed, but became a very small party, kept together by sort of, I guess, you know, obsessives like some of us. And when I think about my adult life, my governments have been Tory, 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 Labour, 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 Tory coalition, Tory, Tory. And unfortunately, it looks like it might be Tory next time at the moment. The polls are saying Labour at the moment, but I don't trust them. And all of these Tory and coalition and Labour governments have together been indifferent about some of the things that we care for. What do we really care about? Housing, transport, health, immigration, criminal justice, energy. These are all really important things on a national level, but they're really important here in Croydon. I actually can throw a cricket ball into Croydon. That's why I'm not standing for mayor, because I actually now live in Sutton, in Wallington. But I've known the area. I'm a South Londoner all my life. I stood for Parliament for the Brexit Party, having not even been a Brexiteer. I wasn't a Brexiteer, but I was furious that the vote was going to be thrown away by Parliament. I was furious about that, so I found myself for the first time in my life a politician. And then I ended up standing for Mayor of London. And you know what? When I stood for Mayor of London, in the whole campaign, not one opportunity like tonight. So I want to thank the Croydon Constitutionalists for giving us an actual opportunity to meet candidates, to meet an electorate, and actually talk a little bit about what we care about. Because that mayoral election was a complete waste of time. And my name is Steve Kelleher. London voted for the wrong SK. But, and I only met him in the queue as we were going in for him to receive the new mayoral candidacy. You know, so it was all a bit of a joke. What I wanted to really talk about was, you know, why would you want to vote for the SDP? What do we stand for? If you look on the site, it says family, community, nation. But those Tory, 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 Labour, Labour, Labour have been indifferent to the things we care about. The SDP are now a national party. We're growing in. We're the fastest growing small party in the country. This paper is called The End of Indifference. It's actually a really weighty and proper document. It's been put together by academics. It's being presented in the House of Lords as a green paper in the next few months, and we're hoping for it to influence government policy. What I can say at both the national and the local level is that it's going to be really hard to beat Labour. It's going to be we know how hard it is to beat the Tories. As a very small party, all we can do is try to make a real difference. And what we hope for is to target places, maybe like Croydon, where normally it's a Labour borough. Labour have done a terrible job recently. You would think the Tories would have a great chance this time, except for Partygate, etc. But if it is close, one of us, or some of us, or together, if we were to target wards independently and make sure we looked after each other and our supporters helped each other, we could make that difference where suddenly that Labour councillor isn't getting in. And if he's not getting in because of our 500 or 700 votes, we become his enemy, we become the Tories' enemy. Suddenly, if we're enemies of the big guys, we're getting noticed. Then all of you are starting to listen. It's going to be on the local press and radio. You'll see that the small parties are actually making a difference to these two big parties that really don't care. You know, the age of indifference or the end of indifference is how we're going to change the world. And I would urge you, I've only got a couple of copies, but it's all on the website. I really would urge you to look at it. The family has been, these two big parties have been indifferent to the breakdown of the family. They've been indifferent to who builds what in our country and who works there. They've been indifferent to immigration. They've been indifferent to so many other things that we care about. And whilst they're not bad people, their priorities are elsewhere. With the SDP, and particularly with the SDP in South London, you've got a chance to actually make a protest vote that might make a difference. And hopefully, as the Q&As go on, we can get into some of the policy details. But thank you for your time.